Welcome back to the channel. I've missed you. We have a special episode today. So I had so many people reach out to me via email, DM, asking me to watch this interview on Viall Files of the Special Forces cast. And in particular, people were interested in the section on Kody Brown. I would tell you that in every interview I have seen of Kody over the years, nobody has been as pointed as Natalie and as Nick were, the hosts of Viall Files, in pushing him to really talk about his level of accountability with the family. So the context is, on the show Special Forces, Kody was pushed to, or he eventually took accountability for his treatment of the kids and his relationship there. And then afterwards, he's been interviewed on different outlets, and he said, look, I didn't mean it. I was on this show. I had to say that I was accountable, but really a relationship goes two ways. And Nick and Natalie both leaned on that, and I think Kody gave the most comprehensive answer, stupid answer, one that, maybe stupid is the wrong word, I think short-sighted, maybe narcissistic answer to those questions. And that's what we're going to do today. I want to analyze Kody's responses to those questions. So before we get into it, if you're new here, my name is DavidColarossiPhD. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I use events in pop culture to talk about psychological concepts. So today we're using Kody Brown, but what I'm really talking about is parenting, navigating a divorce, personal accountability, narcissism, those kinds of things. So I hope you enjoy. I should say, from an administrative standpoint, I do have a Substack. I would love for you to check it out. It's called Windmills and Giants. Also, there is a members-only side of this channel. If you want these episodes without sponsor reads or ads, check that out as well. Okay, let's get into it.
I was just marveling. I just tackled a pro football player. You know, I was geeking out just a little bit, even though I didn't know anybody before we got there. And so I've been haunted ever since the interrogations. And I need something new to get that out of my PTSD system.
I think this first part of the interview is interesting because it gives some context for how Kody shows up interpersonally. He mentions in the interview that he's a very different person on Sister Wives, you know, given the edit that he receives, versus how he showed up on Special Forces, given the different edit he receives there. What you notice is that he is not well liked by the group. And he seems, at least in my eyes, to be unable to really clock the fact that he's being received differently. So like right now, in this interview, you can see that Andrew E. sort of is pulled back a little bit from him. There's some distance there. And he's not laughing while Kody is laughing. Kody is telling a story. Kody is laughing. He's giggling at the way he's saying things. Kody thinks he's being really engaging and interesting, but it's not landing that way on Andrew. And if you listen to the women in the front row beneath him on the couch, they are also not laughing. Kody, without positive feedback, is making jokes and making himself laugh, but there's not, I would argue, there's not enough of an effort on his part to try and read how am I impacting those around me? Because I think it's because Kody is just focused on number one. Okay, so that sets the framework for kind of who Kody is. Now the questions are a bit more pointed about Kody's family, about Sister Wives, about his kids. And before we get into that, I want to thank the sponsor for tonight's video, Lions Tea Exchange. I'm so happy Lions Tea Exchange is sponsoring tonight's video. If you've watched this channel before, you know I love tea, and my new favorite tea company is Lions Tea Exchange. It's an artesian tea company based in Texas, and they offer both conventional teas and functional teas. The functional teas are unique in that they have some kind of functional element that adds value to your body. For example, the ginseng in this lemon ginseng tea, which by the way is fantastic, is rich in antioxidants, which are known for having anti-inflammatory properties. It's been linked to brain health and immune function. Ginseng is also known for helping to regulate blood sugar, improving focus, and improving mood. Not only is the tea great, but they also have fun seasonal flavors. I like the fact that everything is made in the US. I like the fact that it is packaged by hand. It comes from a small business. Everything is done with care. I got this nice little note that came with my package. You can even buy these really cool keepsake boxes. I think it is the perfect seasonal gift. So I recommend you try it out. And the good news is, because you are a member of the Pop Psych YouTube audience, Lions Tea Exchange is offering a 10% discount. All you have to do is go to lionsteaexchange.com and use the promo code POPPSYCH. You can also scan the QR code below. Okay, let's get back to the video.
Since Special Forces has ended, has anything changed with the relationship with your kids? And have you used this kind of reflection in those conversations with the DSs to kind of like think about how you might approach things differently with your children?
So this is a great question by Nick. And Kody's answer to it is long and meandering. So I'm going to break it down into sections.
Well, before I got divorced, before 3 divorces, one after another, I had what I thought was a great relationship with all of my children.
So first of all, I think that there's a lot of naivete here. I think Kody does believe that his relationships were great. But his first divorce from Christine was in 2021, the end of 2021. There was, if you watch Sister Wives, you know there was a ton of friction between Kody and his kids at that stage of the game. But I think Kody moves through the world where everything, unless he gets hit over the head with a bat, I don't think he clocks that he's having a negative impact on people. And I think that is true for his wives, and I think it is true for his children. Before the divorces, before it was incredibly clear, Kody thought things are fine, no big deal.
So I feel like they were kind of victims of the divorce experience. And of course, they were closer to their mothers. So as they go on and their mothers are bitter.
And word is going to seem like I'm just being hypercritical of everything that Kody says. But I think it's important to note that the line, of course they're closer to their mothers, is a wild thing to say. Unless you're, unless you are a polygamist and your mode of operation is, I am not going to have a great relationship with my kids. They're going to have great relationships with their moms and a mediocre relationship with me. I would argue if you're concerned about the health of your kids, the psychological health of your kids, it is your job as the father to make the effort to ensure that you have a similarly strong relationship with all of your children. I mean, if you start having so many kids that you know you can't maintain a strong relationship with all of them, I think you've had too many kids. Like maybe the idea or the structure of a polygamous family just doesn't make sense. You are acknowledging that you're going to be a mediocre parent with a mediocre relationship with your kids. So I sort of just reject that idea.
I was already in that space where I was going through a process of apologizing to my ex-wives for my part in the breakup. And the same was going with off camera with, just trying to be in touch with my children and try and work that stuff out.
I think this is important because I think it happens a lot when there is a divorce. When a relationship breaks up and one parent goes sideways with their kids, it's very easy for that parent to think, I've gone sideways with my kid, not because of anything that I've done. I'm going sideways with my kid because my parent or the other parent is talking negatively about me. So what I'm going to do is just to wait for my kid to figure out that I'm a really good person. I'm going to try to have a better relationship with the spouse over time. Usually what happens, and I think this is what's happening with Kody, is I'm going to create enough distance so that the tension between us becomes less significant. I'm going to distance myself enough that my ex forgets how much they hate me, and then they'll stop talking negatively about me, and then my kid will like me again, which is such a cheap way out. The truth is that it doesn't work that way, right? Because what's happening is the parent has very little need, your ex has very little need to resume a relationship with you. And so you're waiting for this person who truly is not incentivized to have a strong relationship with you to organically come around and care about you once again. Not going to happen. Christine, Janelle, Mary are not going to organically want to have a better relationship with Kody. But while Kody focuses on them as the problem in their relationship and the problem with his relationship with the kids, time is just passing by. And his kids, who are incented to have a strong relationship with him, the kids who do need to have a father, are just being neglected. Kody just doesn't clock that. He just thinks, well, it's a process, and we all have to go through this protracted divorce process. And I just think it is a catastrophic mistake that will breed, by the way, incredible resentment in his children. I promise you, his kids are not liking him more now because time has passed.
It was a hard experience with the DS because from a military perspective, I felt like if you're partly responsible, then you're wholly responsible. So I felt like I owned way more than should have belonged there.
I understand, and I think it's even reasonable in a divorce, no matter what the circumstances are. I understand that there's two people are involved. They're involved in the marriage and they're involved in the divorce. And I don't think it's wild for Kody to say, "Hey, I'm not wholly accountable for the divorce with from Christine, Mary, and Janelle." I get it, and I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is that he then takes that same logic to his kids. You are not in an equal relationship with your kids. Your kids are here because of you. You made a decision to have those kids. You are therefore responsible for the psychological well-being of those kids. So to turn around and act like that relationship is as equal as a relationship is like with a marriage is, in my opinion, is ridiculous. It's driven from a narcissism. I think it comes from deep insecurity. I think it comes from a weak ego. Kody is doing everything to justify this sort of passive mistreatment of his kids. He's protecting himself, and instead of holding himself accountable for being a really negligent parent, he's saying, well, it should go 50-50. I've reached out to them and they haven't reached back out, or when I reach out, they're really negative to me. They're negative to you because of your relationship with them. Full stop. And your responsibility as a father is to address that relationship.
Like things that you've wanted to work on as a father to make those connections with your children that aren't still close better.
Well, the first thing I thought I needed to do was sort of get some healing with their mothers, the ex-wives, because I figured if there was some healing there, then the children feel like they didn't have to be so loyal to their mother.
First of all, wonderful question. I wish that other people in Kody's life would have asked that question, like the therapist that he goes to on the show, like Suki, who interviews him at the end of every season. It's a great question, and this answer is an answer that removes accountability. I'm going to work on the relationship with my ex-wives so my kids don't feel like they have to be loyal, right? Again, Kody's not owning the fact that the kids are upset with him. Kody thinks the reason why the kids are upset with him is because they're being loyal, because his ex-wives are so crappy, right? That's the line of thinking. Notice that it's a way for Kody to really never have to deal with the fact that he's made errors as a father.
You kind of said in your interrogation that you were offended by your children. Do you feel like your kids owe you anything?
This isn't a venue because it is so nuanced.
This is a wonderful line of questioning. I can't tell you how much I appreciate her willingness to sort of put her finger on exactly what Kody's doing. You can, as this plays forward, you will see him sort of try and create distance and try not to answer the question, but she's very good at saying, this is you.
But I've been in touch with them, or I reach out to them often. Those who are not reaching back, the responsibility for a relationship is on two people, especially when you're adults. Almost all of my children were adults when the divorces happened. So they were already grown out of the house.
For me, this is the most frustrating thing that Kody says. This sort of narrative of the kids were adults, so it's 50-50 is wild to me. A, the relationship is not 50-50. B, you should not be waiting for your ex-wives' relationships with you to somehow fix the relationship you have with your kids. And C, Kody, just calling your kids who live across the country regularly is not enough. They're obviously very upset with you. I did an interview with McKelty and with Tony, who are his kids, if you haven't watched the channel. And we're talking about it, and McKelty says, yes, Kody does call me. And I said, it drives me crazy. Why doesn't Kody get in a plane and fly to North Carolina and see you? Why doesn't Kody make the effort to go above and beyond to ensure that there is a solid relationship? And McKelty's response was, I would like him to. Of course they would. If you were a parent and you are estranged from your kid needs to know without a shadow of a doubt that you would go to the ends of the earth to resume that relationship with them. That's what he has to do. And Kody is not willing to go to the ends of the earth. Kody is willing to just pick up his cell phone. That's it. It's just insufficient, in my opinion.
And do you think the lifestyle or you being on a TV show impacted the marriages that didn't work out the most?
Easily would be both.
Okay.
I mean, we were a family that was working hard to be together. Then certain things happen. People change. Your bodies change. Your thought processes change. Your children grow up and they leave the house. And that leaves you in a state of wondering what is going on. What is the relationship that you have with your spouse after your children have left a home?
It's a good question. And I think Kody is right that if you look at like the arc of when do relationships typically break up, right? There's danger zone kind of at year one. You've just gotten married and you're figuring it out and maybe things don't work out. Then there's year 7, right? You're in it. Maybe you have one child at this point and it's laborious and it's difficult and you separate. And then there are people that get divorced at 18 years of marriage. These are marriages where they've had kids and the kids leave the home and the parents look at each other and go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm with you. I don't love you. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And they separate. And I do think that Kody is right that for his wives, as kids start to leave the home, they are alone more and more. Their purpose is gone more and more. There is more and more time to think about how happy am I? And that guy who's bouncing around from house to house to house isn't doing it for me. So I do think that there's a sort of a natural evolution. Take the social media piece of it out, take the TV show out of it. There's a natural evolution in which families do have to sort of reflect on how are we making this work during different phases of our lives.
But the thing about reality TV that is so dangerous for loving families is they're looking for the rub. And if you play into that, you can be with your best friend and start looking critical. You can be with your wife and look critical or be criticized.
This part I think is way off. He's saying, look, we broke up because my wives had friends who spoke negatively about me or because the reality TV show highlighted kind of the cracks in our armor. What he's saying is, for some reason, somebody put shone a light on how crappy things were, and so my wives were dissatisfied. What he's not saying is, hey, maybe I should have tended to those cracks, right? And I think he's right in some ways. I do think that had there not been social media where the wives are getting supported by their fans, had there not been social media where the wives had different options, they were making their own money, they had the resources and the exposure, had there not been the TV show where Kody was constantly getting feedback, and I think the TV show did put a spotlight on the family and the relationships, and that sowed discontent. That's correct. I just don't know that it's a problem the way Kody thinks it's a problem. The problem to me is Kody should have been aware of those cracks and should have been intentionally working to resolve them. The answer isn't, I really wish my wives didn't have all the perspective that they do now because when they had the bigger picture in mind, they didn't want to be with me anymore. I'm so annoyed that Mary is friends with her best friend, Jen, who points out how crappy I am. It'd be better if Mary had no friends and was just satisfied with a crappy marriage to me. Like, that's the mindset he has, which I think is a real problem.
I'm reaching, and if my hand is slapped when I reach, I wait. And then I'll wait a while and then reach again. And then when, the time comes when you reach and somebody's got to unload. So now you finally reach and it's time to unload. And then you start to heal things and then you don't get a call back for a week. And then another, and then another, and then another, and you're wondering what's going on in their healing.
It's really interesting to see Nick and Natasha, who are clearly not fans of Sister Wives, listen to Kody and consistently try to push back on him around his treatment of his kids. And it's interesting to see Kody consistently have some weird, distorted reason for why he doesn't have to engage with his children the way that he clearly should, right? This whole idea of, we're in a process, and if I reach out and get my hand slapped, I'm not going to put my hand back again. That logic makes sense, Kody, if the person you are reaching out for isn't your child. It is your child. The reason why your child is lashing out at you is because the relationship isn't there. So the solution is never going to be further away from them. The solution will never be to do nothing. That is a wild misconception that he has. The solution always will be to be actively pushing to have a closer connection. It drives me freaking, this part of him I just really struggle with.
If I can give you any advice from someone who has not a great relationship with her father, don't stop reaching out. Don't stop showing them that you care and that you want to be a part of their lives. Even if they don't respond, keep calling, keep texting.
Yeah. Natasha, really good advice for Kody. I am sure Cody's going to respond and go, I got it. I'm going to make a change.
I always tell him that I love them. I always reach out. Talk to me when you feel like you can. And when they, sometimes it's very kind and sometimes it's not.
Nope. Cody's going to put it in their laps and let them reach out when they want to. Cody's going to just protect himself and passively wait. I just don't get it. I mean, I do get it. I do get it. His ego is fragile. He can't take the criticism. If he were to actively engage with his kids the way his kids need him to, the kids would force him to be accountable for the way that he treated their parents and force him to be accountable for the way that he treated them. Kody did not treat his kids fairly through COVID or through the divorces. I think, or through their upbringing. But really, in the last decade, it's been horrific. He knows it, they know it, and he's not willing to have that conversation. So he would rather let the relationships go.
And then you have that experience where I've got 5 children right here, right next to me, and they're very engaging. And so there's a tendency for me to put a lot of effort where it's effective.
Yeah, parenting 101. That's in all the parenting books. When you have multiple children, just put your energy and time into the ones that like you. That's where you should focus. Focus on the ones that are happy with you and ignore the ones that have pain.
Just to challenge you a little bit, it's not your children's job to keep the relationship. It is your job. You're saying that like a relationship takes 2 people.
No, but I am reaching out. That is my point, that I am reaching out.
This Natasha is a badass. She's right on. And Kody can't take it. No, I am reaching out. I am doing it. You're not doing it enough, dude. You're not doing it near enough. They don't feel like you're doing it enough. Who in your life is telling you you're doing it enough? You're not. You're the only one that thinks you're doing it enough. The truth is, I think he is well-intended, but I think he has a fragile ego. And I think it's all very painful for him. And he is not at a place where he's willing to sacrifice himself enough to have the relationships that he should have with his kids. So as a consequence, his kids will suffer. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all those things.